Alright, today we're going to do a little bushing upgrade in the front end of my off-road lawnmower. So this is the front tire of my off-road lawnmower, and you can see that the spindle actually has quite a bit of play. And here on a closer look you can see it's actually the bushings on the top and bottom have worn completely out. And now the reason they've done this is because Murray Lawnmower Products decided that plastic bushings were okay to put in the steering spindle. So here on the other side you can see I've actually got everything torn apart already, and here's actually one of the bushings that came out of the top, and you can't really tell how worn it is, but you can see that it is a plastic bushing. It's very small and it just has a little tab there to keep it from rotating while you turn left and right. I've also got the wheel removed here to show you this as well also contained plastic bushings. So I'm going to be replacing these as well. So basically the first step you're going to want to do is get your old bushings out, and you're going to want to measure the inside diameter and the outside diameter. And once you have those two measurements, you're going to need to go to the hardware store. And here's what you're going to be looking for. These are called bronze flange bearings. And these are basically the same thing as the plastic, roughly the same size, but they're made of bronze, which is a lot more durable. My particular size here is 3/4 inch inside diameter, 1 inch outside diameter, but make sure you measure yours and get the right size for your spindles. As you can see, I've got 8 here because I'm going to be doing the top and bottom of both spindles as well as both of my front wheels. Here's the part number for the bushings that I am using. So now once you get your bronze flange bearings, what you're basically going to do is tear the entire front end, spindles, wheels, and everything off of the front end of your off-road lawnmower. You're going to get your old bushings out. You can pound these out with a screwdriver and a hammer. Just get them out of there. They're useless. They're worn out and they're junk. So throw those in the trash. And then you're going to take your new bronze flange bearings and tap them into the tops and bottoms very slightly, either with a large hammer or use a C-clip if you're afraid of breaking them. So here's a neat little problem. Since my new flange bearings are so much thicker than the old ones, the top and bottom flange piece, I can't actually get my cotter pin slid through the spindle. So I think the solution here is actually to trim down the top of the spindle housing, and that'll give me a little bit more clearance, hopefully just enough to slide my cotter pin in. Also, when you're through grinding off the top of your spindle tubes, make sure you clean all the grease and metal flakes out of the inside of the spindle tube, or you're going to cause premature wear on all your brand new bushings. So you can see we've got it up and pinned back into place, and I actually decided to use what's called a hitch pin instead of a cotter pin, simply because I like the quick release aspect of it in case I need to service something. I don't have to mess with cotter pins on the trail or anything like that. We'll see how it holds up. If it falls off or something, I'll keep an extra one with me. But you can see I've actually got almost no spindle play at all anymore. There's a little bit, but man, is that a lot tighter. Here's a slightly closer look. You can see I pulled the pin here because there was actually a little bit of gap between where the pin sits and the top of the spindle bushing. So what you want to do is take some washers, and these machine bushings work really good for this. These are the same washers that you would get on the rear end of your lawnmower, the 3/4 inch wide, but they're like shims, so you can stack as many or as little as you need because they're very thin. You can get just the right amount of spacing in here and get this spindle set up as tightly as possible without binding. Alright, I got both sides done. Brand new bushings bolted back into place. I got my hitch pins on, and you can see I've already got grease fittings installed. I did that in one of my last videos. If you haven't done that, it's a very good idea. You find a spot between your two bushings, drill a hole, tap it with a thread tapper, and then buy yourself some grease fittings and screw them in. I personally like these ones bent at a 45-degree angle so you can grease them with the wheels on. But now that that's done and out of the way, next on the agenda, we're going to work on changing these plastic bushings out of these wheels. So to do this, take your wheel and flip it on its side, make sure there's nothing underneath it. Put a screwdriver or a steel rod down into the hub of the wheel and smack the inside edge of the bottom bushing, and the bushing should fall out of the bottom of the wheel. Do this on both wheels. Each wheel will have 2 bushings, so you should have a total of 4 bushings when you're done. The reinstallation is really easy. Just take your new brass bushings, stick them right where the old bushings came out, and tap them gently into place. Once your bushings are reinstalled in your new wheels, you can reinstall your wheels back onto your spindles. So the very last thing you're going to want to make sure you do is re-grease your spindles and your wheels. You can see, as I showed you before, I have my grease fitting there. I've already hit that with grease. And I've actually also got grease fittings in my wheels, and that's because these are a bushing style wheel, not a bearing style wheel. So I am able to pump grease right into both those parts, which is hugely beneficial. So everything is bolted back together, reassembled, and dropped back down on the ground. Here's a little side-by-side comparison showing you what we cleaned up for slop out of the wheel. You can see actually quite a bit of play has been removed just by replacing these plastic bushings with these bronze bushings. Something else I had to change was I could not leave the hitch pins on the top of my kingpin for the sheer fact that they were almost colliding with my tire, not to mention the fact that I could barely pull them out with the tire installed. So I put the cotter pins back in. It's not such a big deal, but I'll always have a pair of pliers with me and wrenches and stuff to disassemble things as I need to on the trail. But I'll leave the hitch pin idea out there for you guys just in case somebody thinks that might work for them. Yeah, that's pretty much it for this modification. It's really simple. It's going to cost you a little bit of money. These bushings will run you anywhere from $4 to $5 to $6 a piece. So, I mean, if you're like me and you replace your wheel bushings and spindle bushings all at the same time, you're looking at almost $40 for this upgrade. But a lot of times you'll get away with just being able to do the spindle bushings or just the wheel bushings depending on your make and model. This is by no means a really new idea. People have been doing this for a while. I just made this video up to show you guys kind of the process to do it and to kind of bring it to everyone's attention, because I'm sure a lot of you out there didn't even know you could do something like this. But that's pretty much it today for me, guys. If you liked the video, let me know. Leave a comment. Tell me what you think, any suggestions. But we're going to call it a day here. Hopefully this bushing idea helps a few of you guys out with your off-road lawnmowers. But I will see you in the next video update.